It's fine.
Rotate your phone.
You can't turn your phone out. Oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So we'll just have to pop it back and forth between the two of us because you can't turn it sideways. Hi, Kelly. Okay. Hi, Jen. I know. It's much different than on a Zoom call.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Paul Plum. All right, let's invite some people.
Missy. What? Why Missy? Miss Rita. No.
All right, Christy and Liza. Hi. So we tried to do Bud's typical video, but we were having a mound of technical difficulties, so we're just gonna go live instead. So we said we were gonna go live at 4. I don't know what time it is. It's probably pretty close to 4. So we'll start here in like a minute or two. What's that? Okay. We got a heart. Do you see it floating?
Oh, yay.
All right, so I think we're probably pretty close to 4 o'clock, and then obviously to record it so everybody can watch it later. So we had put up on our Facebook pages about questions you had regarding homeschooling and unschooling, and my friend Jess had prompted us to do this in the first place. So some of the questions we got, we'll just read through some of the questions, and then if you have other questions, obviously you can comment down below. So the first question we got was, how do you make sure they learn everything they need to learn in an unschool setting? Hi, Ashley Shally. So unschooling is something we kind of evolved into. So we were doing a typical, I laid out a whole curriculum for the year. I had always piecemealed our curriculum. I never bought like a super expensive curriculum. As a kindergartner, we did My Father's World, which was interesting, but I still only did a couple pieces of it, and it was like $150. So we really have been piecemealing since he was in kindergarten. Stuff from education.com, a lot of Usborne books, some library books, things like that. So in an unschool setting, I would say the best way to make sure that your kids are learning what they need to is to gear it towards what they want to learn. So your most important, I have a bunch of notes here. So your most important question is, what do you want for your kid? And what does your kid want? So that's got to be your first question. Before you can tackle any of these other questions, you need to figure out what your kid wants and what you want for your kid. So making sure they learn everything they need to in an unschool setting really is dependent on your kid. So if your kid wants to go on to be a doctor, then you should probably be doing some online classes that are higher math and higher science and things like that. If your kid wants to go on to be a welder, then you should have them apprentice, or you should get a welder, or you should find a friend that likes to weld and have them learn from them. So that would be my guidance about unschooling, but making sure they get what they need. What is the major difference between homeschool and unschooling? It's really just a term. Hi, everybody. Cheryl, Kathy, Tammy, Alyssa. The difference between unschool and homeschool is really whatever you want it to be. So we kind of do a hybrid. So some days we do books and we break out the Usborne books or maybe some textbooks that we have. And some days literally he just learns from playing in the yard or welding with Zad or selling his products at an event, or, you know, his dad works on a farm. So sometimes he's there and he's helping with farming, or my mom's here and he's sewing. So you have to get in your mind that school happens all the time. So your kid is constantly learning all the time, especially younger kids, learning all the time. So the biggest difference is just that, again, this is so molded to exactly what your family needs and what your kids need and what you want for your kid and what your kid wants. So what do you have to do to make sure that they graduate with the state? So some of the boring things is when you start homeschooling, if your kid was already in school, you're going to obviously have to withdraw them from school, and then you have to file an affidavit. Affidavit is super simple. You literally go online, Google homeschool affidavit, and it just attests to things like you're going to do 180 days, you're going to cover the subjects that need to be covered, math, science, civics, etc., and you just sign it and give it to it depends, like in our school district, it's the executive secretary. There would be a designated person at your local school that would handle your homeschool stuff for you. So basically at the beginning of the year, we file an affidavit and we file a medical exemption. Hi, Missy. Hi, Ryan. And I can email those things to you. They're very simple. You can also Google them. We do a medical exemption because I don't really feel like I need to turn his medical records over to the school. He's not there, so I don't know why they would need those. So we do a medical exemption and affidavit. You have to file that by August 1st. You can mail it in. You do have to get it notarized. Our school, for instance, does notarization right there on the spot, which is great. Saves us $5. So some, not all schools do that. You might have to go to like the UPS store or your local notary and get that notarized, but it's really not super stressful. When we started, Missy's on here. Missy and I went together. She had a year ahead of me, doing homeschool, submitting for homeschool. And so she kind of like held my hand through it, but it was really not that scary, not that stressful. And like I said, I can email you those forms if this is something you're looking into. And then as far as being legal with the state, at the end of the year, you just have to prove that you did 180 days, just like public school kids, private school kids, cyber school, whatever. And that can literally be something as simple as a piece of graph paper where you fill in 180 blocks. It can be as extravagant as a sheet for every single day, and you literally write in every single thing that you do. We used to do it that way and submit like a pretty significant portfolio. Hi, Stephanie. I still do that to some degree, except I really give more of an overview of the month instead of outlining every single day. And then I just give, my sheet that has my days checked off. So to be clear, they've changed the laws. I mean, they changed the laws, I would say every couple years since we've started homeschooling. You do not have to submit your portfolio to your school district. You do not have to submit your standardized test scores to your school district. These are things that you take to your evaluator, and your evaluator says, yes, they did 180 days. Yes, they completed a portfolio that shows improvement. And I sign off on this. So we literally take one sheet into our school district, hand it to them, and that's that. You have to have all of your stuff done by June 30th. So you have to have it in by then. Normally we do our evaluation sometime in mid-May or around there. And that's the other great thing, is just the freedom with time. I mean, you really can school all year, but technically you're schooling from August 1st until June 30th. So that is always a big question, is standardized testing is another big one. So standardized testing, hi Chelsea, you can order one online. They're like $50. You order it online, you administer it. You are supposed to have a different proctor. So I just get my mom to do it, because why go pay a test proctor to do it when my mom can handle it? And you just do your standardized test, and then you just show your evaluator that you did it. It doesn't have to have a certain score. It literally means nothing. It's a technicality, completely a technicality. So that was another question that someone had asked about, how do I be legal? And if you have more questions about being legal for school, again, I can email you the forms. They're so simple, and it's really not as scary as it sounds. Do your kids graduate with a GED or a diploma? That was another question that we got. So, yes, they do. So you can do a parent-issued diploma or a parent-issued transcript. and you can get that notarized. You would have that signed off by your evaluator also. And again, this is really going to be catered to what your kid wants. If your kid is going to go on to MIT, then you need to be setting your kid up to go to MIT and doing the appropriate online classes and a transcript that reflects a student that's going into somewhere like MIT. If your kid is going to go to Thaddeus Stevens, you still need a transcript, and it needs to show that you did math, science, history, English, etc., but it probably doesn't have to be quite to the extent that it would need to be if you were going to go off to MIT or to be a doctor or whatever. So you have the option of doing a parent-issued one. There's also a bunch of diploma programs online that you can do, and they'll mail you one. If that feels more official to you, you can do it that way. And a lot of times, too, this will depend on what the college or tech school or whoever is expecting. Some of them just have a college entrance exam. Some of them want SAT scores. So you really need to do your research and know what direction the kid's going to go and what the school is expecting that they're going into. If you have a kid that's just going to go right into the workforce, maybe they are just an apprentice. And so a parent-issued diploma and transcript is significant for that. You can also do a GED or do a diploma program through a private school. Those are obviously things that you would pay for. So that's how the college, high school diploma, I know that's always a big question. I think sometimes people think that, well, my kid can't go to college because they were homeschooled, and that's so not true. I have several friends that I've acquired just in the homeschool community that their kids went on to be teachers and lawyers and all kinds of things, and they went on to four-year schools and then got masters and all these other things. So if you have specific questions about what happens in post-secondary education, I can hook you up with those people. They're all very nice, and they want to help and make sure that you're guiding your kid in whatever direction they want to go. If you have any questions during this, drop your questions, or obviously you can always ask me later. So let's see. Another question we got was, what does a typical day look like for Bud? So we're going to tune over here to Bud.
Hi.
And so Bud, tell them about your typical day.
So my typical day is normally wake up, have breakfast, do my daily chores, take care of my animals. If there's stuff that need to be done out in the shop, I go help my dad with that. Then normally we do some book school, I do some educational games and typing, and then the rest of the day we just see how it goes.
Yeah, so you have an example here. So we love Usborne books. Obviously, this would be more towards, these Academy books are awesome. This would be more geared towards elementary, maybe some middle school. High school, it might become different. You might order specific textbooks for what your kid wants to do. And I just can't emphasize enough that, like, this is so structured around what your kid wants. You are going to definitely, if you're coming out of the public school mentality, you have to change your mentality to, you are now homeschooling. You're not doing school at home. So one size doesn't fit all, and the labels aren't going to work because you're going to now cater your kid's education to exactly what they need. So let's see, we addressed SATs in college. How do you teach subjects you don't know how to explain? Obviously, I had a concern about this when we started homeschooling because I am pretty decent at math and I love English and history. Not super great at science. So like if Bud wants to do organic chemistry at some point, we're going to be outsourcing that. But there's plenty of private tutors around. So you could hire a private tutor. There's tons of online classes. Right now there's a bunch of free online classes that you could take advantage of because of the pandemic. But when they're not free, there's lots of other online classes that your kids can take. There's a lot of dual enrollment options. So we have a friend who, her daughter is very into reading, and she definitely is a candidate for college. And so she's maybe 10, and they're already looking into like a dual enrollment option with Lancaster Bible College. So there's options out there. You just have to be willing to take the time to research them and find them. And there's great homeschool groups on Facebook. There's Lancaster PA Homeschool group, and then there's PA Homeschool Support, and there's tons of veteran moms in there that have done this with multiple kids or helped other families through. And there's lots of great info there. You can ask questions in there too. The other question that we were asked was, how do you track days, hours, especially in high school? So in high school, you do have to have 4 English credits, 4 math credits, all of that kind of stuff. And you can either track your days, so you can continue to just be tracking 180 days like you probably would be doing in elementary or middle school, or you can track hours. So you have to have X amount of hours towards each course, and you can track that. And again, that can be simple. You can just have a piece of graph paper, and you just fill in your little bubbles, or you just write it down. You do tally marks. If you love, spreadsheets, do a spreadsheet. You can do it however you want. The other thing I would advise you to do if you are going to get into homeschooling is join HILSDA. So it's HSLDA. It's $100 a year, and they will provide you with a lawyer in the instance that you have an issue with your school district. So our school district, we're in Penn Manor, and Cindy has been great to us. We've had almost no issues. Jenny said hi.
Oh, hi.
We've had almost no issues with Penn Manor. She's not pushy. She doesn't ask for more. Hi, Joni. She doesn't ask for more than what's required. Some school districts, I know that is not the case. I've talked to some moms, and their school districts hound them and certified letters nonstop and all of that kind of nonsense, which is unfortunate. But if you get in that situation and you're part of HILSDA, so for literally like less than, I don't know, what does it come out to? Less than $10 a month. You can be part of HILSDA, and they'll provide you with a lawyer and help you through these things. Most of the people I've talked to that have had to contact HILSDA, us included, we did have one issue early on. Joni says she misses our faces. HILSDA was able to help us with literally one email, and it was done. And I know there are sometimes that it does go to a court system, and so you're $100. I mean, that's a quarter of what you're going to pay a lawyer for an hour's worth of work. So it's well worth your money to join HILSDA. As far as someone asked me about IEPs, so we do not have an IEP, and I do not have direct experience with an IEP. But from what I am told from other parents I know whose kids do have IEPs, if your kid is going into you're at the point where it's time to register and you're deciding what you're doing. You don't have to get an IEP if you're going to homeschool. If that's something you want to do, you should definitely do it. And I'm not steering you either direction on this. Obviously, I'm not giving you legal advice, and whatever you're comfortable with is what you should do. I personally would not get an IEP if I felt that one of my kids needed one, because where my kids are right now, I don't think that it would be necessary. Now, a different situation is if your kid is coming out of public school or out of private school or whatever, and they already have an IEP, you do have to stick with your IEP until those IEP goals are met. And then you have to get a special education evaluator, and they're around. We have some in Lancaster County. I have a few friends that whose kids do have IEPs, and they have special evaluators for that. So,
Hi, Nicole.
Yeah, hi, Nicole. I was just talking to you, actually. So those are our 2 cents. And then just some other extra resources. Obviously, there's tons of resources out there right now that are free, but we personally love education.com. It's like $40 or $45 a year. We love typingclub.com, also free.
There's ABC Yeah, which has everything from pre-K to 6th grade.
Yeah, they have a lot of good stuff. And then again, there's tons of co-ops in our county. We have a ton of co-ops in Lancaster County. And we live in the era of Facebook. Like, there's always somewhere to ask a question and get an answer. So, the last thing was crisis school versus homeschool. And hi, Tanya. Crisis school, obviously I don't have any experience doing crisis school. But I have friends who are crisis schooling right now, and it's definitely different. I mean, I was just on a Zoom call with Brian Bliss, who is the Solanco superintendent, this afternoon, and that school's really doing everything they can to try to help these kids. And there's so many circumstances with, some households don't have internet, some households don't have good phone service, some households, both parents are trying to work and they're trying to school their kids, and that's brutal. So I certainly I sympathize with parents who are trying to crisis school. I can't even imagine how complicated that must be. Obviously, we didn't have a whole lot of change in our day as far as school and work goes, short of just dealing with, a down economy. But I definitely, hi, Abby, if you are interested in homeschooling, remember that, you can do a hybrid of homeschool and public school. You can do a hybrid of homeschool and private school. There's some schools where you can register and you go to school 3 days a week and then 2 days you're home. There's cyber school options, and there's just all these choices. So before you even consider any of this stuff, I definitely think that you need to sit down and do an inventory of what do you want for your kid and what does your kid want. And then you can decide from there if homeschooling is for you, if homeschooling is for your family, if it's for your kid. Because the whole family is going to be, at least at our house, the whole family is involved. Zad does, he does a lot of science experiment stuff and shop days and hands-on learning. And then I do more of like the bookwork type stuff. And helping him with bookkeeping for his business and things like that. So there's tons of options. So if you are questioning homeschooling, you're questioning unschooling, we don't know where the school is going here come the fall. There's so many things on the table and things to consider. So if you have questions about it, let me know. I can try to help as best I can, and I can email you the forms if you definitely know, like, I'm ready to homeschool and I just need the right paperwork. Let me know and I can get that to you. So I hope this was helpful, and we're sorry that we couldn't do a typical Buds Outfitters video this week. We were just
difficulties.
Really struggling with the technical difficulties this week. So thanks everybody. Be safe.